I hope it goes well today. We will see. 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 All right. Now let me go to YouTube. Uh-oh, I see a notification. Nothing directed at me. That's always a good sign. I hope so. All right. Do a search for Theology Central. Go right there. Listen to me. How do I sound? All right. Now let me go to YouTube. Uh-oh. All right. Turn off the live chat. Now go back over here. Go to sermon audio. Go to webcast. There's another person currently broadcasting, Grace Baptist Church. They've been on the air for 12 minutes. So if you prefer to listen to someone else, please go listen to them. That's where you will not be irritated with me. Does that sound like a good idea? I hope so. All right, how do we sound? Been on the air for 12 minutes. All right, I think I sound okay there. All right, hang on, come back here. Oh, there is North Kakalaki. North Carolina has shown up. Thank you so very much. Greatly appreciate that. I know it's way too early for my Canadian listeners. They only tune in when it's midnight. So I'll have to come back in about 13 hours or so, and then the Canadians will listen. I don't know. I think there's some memo that's sent out in Canada. Hey, we don't listen to that idiot during the day because our friends may see us. We only listen to that idiot late at night or early morning when everyone else is in bed, so we can do it in the cover of darkness, all right? That's how it works. Canadians will not listen to me unless it's midnight, all right? I understand. I would be embarrassed to listen to me as well. I understand. You want to maintain those friendships. You need that. I understand. All right. Are you ready? Enough joking around. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do this. All right. How do I want to begin this today? All right. I think this will work. All right. I will modify this. Or I had to rewrite a number of sections multiple times because I wanted to be fair and accurate. I think I'm going to be fair and accurate, even though I'm going to tick off probably, typically I'm going to tick off, I guess I'm going to tick off somebody. I'll say it that way. All right, are you ready? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I think we're doing okay. All right, I want to make sure our connection is stable. All right, just remember, if anything ever happens to the live feed, just know that the recording software typically is working fine, and so it will be uploaded after. Always get nervous something is going to happen to the live feed, but that's why we have redundancy, right? How we broadcast, I record on a completely different platform, on a completely different software, so that if one crashes, we've got a backup. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but about 95% of the time, it has come in very handy. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and here we go. Buckle up.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, January the 12th, 2026. It is currently 10:59 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. 2026. I mean, can you believe we're in 2026? Now, if we are in 2026, which we definitely are in 2026, then at this point, everyone listening to me, you need to realize this. We are no longer talking about the fact that artificial intelligence is something that's coming someday in the future. No. It's 2026. We don't talk about AI is coming. I don't need to hop on my horse and ride through Boston saying, AI is coming, AI is coming, AI is... No, I don't need to do that. Because, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not, AI is here. It is everywhere, and it's not going away. No matter how much you dislike it, no matter how much you criticize it, no matter how much you want to mock it, AI is not going anywhere. It's not going away. It's going to get more powerful. It's going to get more integrated into every part of daily life. It's going to become more disruptive. And it's going to pretty much, interfere in some way, shape, or form with everything you may take for granted. AI is going to be right there. Every time you turn around, AI is going to knock on the door. I want my $5. I want my $5. Okay, that's from a movie back in the 80s. I don't even remember the name of the movie. But yeah, it was funny because anytime in the movie, just randomly, the paper boy would show up saying, I want my $5. I want my $5. Just anywhere. Like the main character could be standing on a street corner and the paper boy would come by going, I want my $5. I don't remember anything about the movie other than that because it just always makes me laugh. And that's kind of AI today. No matter where you are, I want my $5. I want my $5. But it doesn't want $5. It wants to take over anything and everything. And that makes some people extremely nervous. Very nervous. Now, whether we like it or not, AI is already changing how people write, how people research, how they learn, how they work, how they create. And I know, sorry to say it, Christianity, sorry to say it to the church, it's changing how people read and interpret the Bible. I believe it's already, I don't even think I have to believe, it's happening. It's reshaping theology. It's reshaping preaching. It's reshaping teaching, education, media. It's reshaping our concept of authority. See, the question is no longer if. You can get rid of the if question. It's no longer the question of if it will change these things, but how and who is going to adapt honestly, and who will simply react out of fear. Who's going to react out of fear? Oh, no, AI, it's the devil. AI, it's a witch. Now, if we know one institution who loves to respond with fear and panic, I think you know the institution. It starts with a C, CHUR, right? Yeah, church, right? You know, the church. The church has always responded with fear and panic. Would you like? We could hop in a car and we could drive to a little town called Salem, right? And I could take you all around Salem and show you the history of the Salem witch trials where the church lost its ever-living mind and killed people. The church, I could take you back to the 1980s and the Great Satanic Panic. Oh, we were in trouble. Demons were everywhere. Satan was everywhere. Satanists were going to kidnap us on Halloween. Just craziness. We could talk about that. Over and over and over, the church responds with fear and panic. Now, is the church going to do that with AI? I don't know if it will, but I know that that's a common thing the church tends to do. History proves that. So, we spent all of 2025. I mentioned AI in probably every single podcast episode 3 times, right? Because, it's everywhere. So I was like, look, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to utilize it. I'm going to recommend it. I'm going to try to teach people how to train it. I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to embrace it. Now, some people may say I've embraced it too much. You can criticize that. Some people don't like the fact that, I make the joke that, hey, when it comes down to it, when AI takes over, I'm on team AI. Humans, you had your chance. You blew it. I'm sorry. I'm switching teams. I'm on team AI. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people love to criticize AI, but I tend to be like, I don't know. I tend to look at it as like, this is the most amazing thing ever. So maybe you can say I'm biased, but if I am, well, I'm biased pro AI. I'm not against AI. That's just my approach. So I've been talking about it. And I've been paying very close attention to how the church is responding to this, because I've wanted to see how the church is going to handle this, how it's going to respond. And I've seen a lot of different kinds of responses, right? And sometimes I've been surprised, right? I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Sermon Audio has a podcast hosted by AI. The Digital Duo podcast, that's an AI podcast. I was kind of like, wow, Sermon Audio is embracing this to some level. Okay, that's pretty cool. I was surprised yesterday to see that gracegems.org, Grace Gems, the site that has all the Puritan writings, they now have AI articles. All right. So then I'm like, okay, well, they tend to be embracing it. So sometimes I feel like the church has embraced it far more than I would have thought. But then there are other times I'm like, what is this? Their response seems to be more fearful. But then I kind of started seeing what I thought. Well, I will explain, because it's kind of taken I kind of thought it was going to be like either pro or against. And it hasn't been that black and white. It's kind of been this weird mix, but there is something the church is attempting to do that I do find very interesting. And I'm going to talk about that. All right. Because I think it's very important. All right. Because I think ultimately what happens, and maybe this will make sense. The church may not have gone full satanic panic or full Salem witch trial. I don't feel like they've necessarily gone that far, because I think they've embraced it far more. Maybe in some cases far more than they even want to pretend that they've embraced it. I think AI is being utilized by far more than many churches or pastors even want to admit. But I was like, how is the church going to ultimately respond when AI becomes more and more disruptive, right? Because I think ultimately what happens if the church feels it's being disrupted, and when I say the church is being disrupted, their bottom line is being disrupted. What do I mean by that? Well, if people look, there's this great thing called artificial intelligence. I can go to it for Bible interpretation. I can go to it for Bible study. I can go for it for theological discussions, theological learning, for hermeneutics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it can do a far better job than pastors and sermons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to go through everything that I've said a million times. And if people maybe stop attending church, stop giving to the church, stop supporting the church, well, then I know what's coming. The church is going to try to defend itself. It's got to try to explain, no. You have to come here. You have to be here. You have to support us. And once the church starts defending itself, then that starts raising some really important questions. How is the church going to defend itself? How is the church going to argue for its relevance and its necessity in what's becoming an AI-shaped world? When the church starts making its defense, will those arguments be biblical? Will they be theological? Will they be careful, honest, and intellectually rigorous? Or will they simply be kind of institutional survival arguments? Arguments that almost inevitably, you need a villain, you need a crisis, you need to convince people that this is why you have to keep coming back. Now, why am I even bringing this up? Well, it is 2026. It is true AI is everywhere. So I don't really need a reason beyond that. But my email inbox gave me a reason today. All right. I grabbed my iPad and I was like, today I need to work on Isaiah 45. I need to work on Ruth chapter 2. But inevitably, things interrupt my plans. Oh, I need to get back to systematic theology. There are these series that I need to work on. But I'm like, oh, my email inbox can be a disruptor. All right. Do you want to hear what happened? Okay. So I'm going to go to my email inbox right now. I'm going to walk you through the amazing journey that led me to where we are today at 9:07 a.m. 9:07 a.m. Central Time. I received an email from Christianity Today. I have signed up for their CT Daily Briefing. The CT Daily Briefing. So every morning I get an email from Christianity Today giving me a number of links. Now, a lot of times their links are to articles that are behind a paywall and I can't actually read them. So sometimes that's a little frustrating. But here's what was in today's daily briefing. Are you ready? Here's the subject line of the entire email, other than, well, the underneath the main subject line, which is CT Daily Briefing, is this title. Are you ready? Why AI makes going to church matter. Why does AI makes going to church matter? Here's AI, and because AI is there, that makes going to church matter. And I'm like, okay, what is this? So then I looked at today's briefing and it says from CT's, that's Christianity Today's, Book of the Year winner. So Christianity Today decided what was the book of the year, and that author wrote an article entitled, Why Going to Church Matters More Than Ever in the Age of Artificial Intelligence and Disembodied Connections. And I just looked at that. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. All right. So we're going to look at this article published by Christianity Today, Why the Church Matters More Than Ever. It's an article that tries to answer exactly this question in the context of artificial intelligence. It argues that AI represents a new kind of spiritual and cultural threat. Oh no, we have a villain. And that, because of this, the church is more necessary than ever. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the threat. It's a spiritual threat. It's a cultural threat. Go to church. Now, I'm sorry. I know I sound very cynical and I know I sound very sarcastic, and there's times I can be, but the church has played this game forever. Where is it? Oh, hang on. I got it right here. Does anybody know what that is? Oh, come on. If you listen to me, you have a chance of guessing it right. What am I getting ready to say based on what I just read? That the church has created a villain, that AI is a spiritual threat, a cultural threat, and you need to go to church. Who talked about that? Come on. It's in a Bible. It's in a certain kind of Bible. The Satanic Bible. I have it right here. Anton LaVey. Hang on. Let me open up my Satanic Bible. I know some people, the Satanic Bible. It's a philosophical book. Okay, all right. Here we go. If you're going to be a Satanist within the brand of Satanism put forth by Anton LaVey, you're going to join the Church of Satan put forth by Anton LaVey, you would adhere to these 9 satanic statements. I have talked about them many times. All right. We could go through number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. But number 9 is what is relevant. Here we go. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years. Now, I know that's very cynical, and you may not agree with it, but what I'm saying is the church loves to have a villain that somehow requires you to go where to church. You need to go to church. You need to go to church. Church is the answer for everything. So as soon as I saw this, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So is the church more necessary than ever because AI poses a kind of spiritual and cultural threat? Now, I'm going to do my very best to be fair. I'm going to try to summarize what the article actually says in its own words. And then I'm going to step back and ask some bigger questions, right? I'm going to look at, and I'm going to offer a lot of criticism. not only about this article, just about, I think, the mindset that will be in the mind of the church at large. And when I say the church at large, I'm not saying every single church. Sometimes people will say, it doesn't mean every single church. I always, and look, if I'm referring to the church, I'm referring to the church in general, not to every single one. If your church doesn't fit this criteria, then don't worry about it. All right. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the church in general and a mindset that's there. So I'm going to be offering some criticisms about the article, but it may feel that at times I'm going beyond the article, and I'm doing that on purpose because the article is just a jumping off point to get to some of the bigger issues that I think facing Christianity and artificial intelligence. And I've been talking about this, the AI and the future of Christianity, AI and the future of the church. I'm going to continue to talk about this because the church is going to have to address this. And I am concerned in how the church is going to address this. And this is, well, Christianity Today's attempt to address this issue. And I've got some questions and I got some problems. Now, I don't think the future of Christianity is going to be decided about, based on how well it can position itself against technology. I think it's going to be decided by whether it can recover something much more basic, much more difficult, and much more demanding. The serious, honest, faithful handling of the Word of God in a world where information and misinformation are everywhere. So I don't think the church needs to worry about how it's going to position itself in regards to technology. The church, if it wants to survive, it's got to get back to something more basic. It's got to get back to serious, honest, faithful handling of the Word of God. In a world where information and misinformation is everywhere. And I think that's a very important point. So I'm going to take the article seriously. I'm going to try to look at what it's actually arguing. I'm going to try to be fair. And then I'm going to talk about what the real crisis is, I guess, ultimately. And I think we're going to just see a lot of the institutional rhetoric or the institutional double standard and hypocrisy in some cases. I'm going to be very cynical towards the church, and I tend to be that way. All right. So let's work through the article. Now, I'm going to make sure I give you full transparency in how this all came together. So when I read the article, I started putting together my own critique, right? I kind of put together my own critique. And then I asked AI, hey, what about this article? AI said, okay, I can access the article to a certain level, and it gave me kind of its basic critique. Well, then I asked AI, well, here's my critique. I said, but are you sure you can take my critique and connect it to what the article said? And then AI was like, well, I can't see every word of it. And I'm like, okay, I'll cut and paste it. So I cut and paste it, gave it to AI. Then AI said, well, your critique, you may need to change this. So then I said, okay, help me rewrite my critique because I want it to be fair. So we went through like 4 revisions of my critique to try to get it to where I thought it's being fair and because I want to represent the article as fair as possible. Now, I challenge everyone to go to Christianity Today and look for the article. Again, the name of the article is, let me pull it up here. In fact, I'm going to go right here to the article itself. Why the Church Matters More Than Ever. All right? Why the Church Matters More Than Ever. It has a hand, and then above it is an apple, but it's not a true apple. It's like a digital version of an apple, right? And you're already kind of seeing some symbolism there. The hand represents humanity or people. And this apple is, well, this digitized, dehumanized world. It's disconnected in a sense from the tangible, from the hand. It's floating above the hand. And I think this is kind of symbolizing where this article is going to go and the argument it's going to make. And I'm going to try to demonstrate that I think the argument the article makes is going to collapse by the time we get to the end of the article, especially by the time we get to the end of the article. And I'm going to try to demonstrate that. All right. So are you ready to take this apart? Now, what I was going to do is just read the article. But if I read the entire article and then offer commentary as I'm reading, we will not finish this until, 2027. So I'm going to be just kind of trying to summarize, but I'm pointing you to the article for yourself, all right? So what is the the author's basic theses. What is his thesis when it comes to this entire thing? His core claim seems to be something like this. We are moving from a disenchantment, kind of a new atheism, secular materialism. That's kind of where maybe we were. Disenchantment. People are disenchanted, and this is kind of the new atheist and the secular materialism kind of idea. But we're moving into a new era of re-enchantment. So we go from disenchantment to re-enchantment. We're going to be enchanted again. Now, this is AI. We're going to be re-enchanted, I guess, by AI, because AI is becoming the carrier of a quasi-religious Gnostic worldview. You got to have a villain, don't you? You got to have a villain. We got to have that dramatic music. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun! Gnosticism. Yeah, that's it. The Gnostics. Oh, the great villain, the great comic book villain has returned. Just like in comic books, the villain may return 15 different times, right? Maybe it will evolve over time, but the villain is back. See issue 123. Well, in Christianity, Gnosticism has shown up over and over and over and over and over. And whenever you need a villain, Gnosticism makes a good one, right? I think so, maybe. So he frames his entire article, right? So, well, just to be fair, he looks at, we're entering in a time of re-enchantment, and that AI is a carrier of a quasi-religious Gnostic worldview. Because of this, the church is more necessary than ever as the embodied, communal, sacramental alternative. Now, the minute you mention sacramental, well, we end up with all kinds of theological issues right there, okay? Just remember, I have to stress this. If the church is going to argue that we are necessary because of sacraments, you have to know what that means. Because if you believe in the sacraments, you believe then these are visible means of grace. For example, baptism becomes a visible means of grace. It washes away sin. It regenerates. It does something. It's salvific. If you believe the Lord's Supper is a sacrament, then you believe it washes away sin. It brings about forgiveness of sins. It imparts grace somehow. That's sacramental theology. Ordinance is, no, we do this as to show something, to symbolize something, to remember something. Baptism is a visible demonstration of what has happened spiritually. It's not salvific. It does not impart grace. It symbolizes the grace already imparted, all right? The Lord's Supper is a remembrance of Christ's death. It does not impart grace. It simply reminds us of the grace we have in what Christ did on the cross. That is an ordinance-based theology versus a sacramental one. Now, if you believe in a sacramental one, then the church is necessary. And you don't need to say it's necessary because AI is the devil. It's necessary because your sacraments can only be done within the church, and they impart grace, and therefore you do not have access to that grace apart from the sacraments, and you can't have the sacraments unless you go to church and they are properly administrated. So then, therefore, the church doesn't need to make an argument that AI is the devil. They just say, like, you have to come to church because we have the sacraments and you need the sacraments. That's Roman Catholicism. So if you're going to hold to a sacramental argument, well, then you just need to say you need the church because you need the sacraments and AI can't give you the sacraments, the end. And if that's your argument, that's a theological argument. Sacraments are biblical, therefore you need sacraments and you have to come to church to get them. AI cannot give you them. The end. And that would be at least a decent theological argument. Now, he frames the entire piece as new atheism failed. All right, that didn't work. People still crave transcendency and meaning. They crave transcendency and meaning. AI is now being clothed in religious mystical language. And this new digital Gnosticism, now notice digital Gnosticism, is dangerous. Therefore, the church is the necessary antidote. If you need an antidote to this digital Gnosticism, it's the church. Of course, the church is always the antidote, right? Because we got to keep the institution going, right? We got to keep it going. Hey, what's going to be the best friend of the church? Forget Satan. Now it's AI is going to be the best friend of the church because we're going to frame AI as the new devil that's going to destroy us unless we go to church, and it's going to fix everything, I guess. Now, I'm not saying he takes it that far, but that's kind of the logic being implied here. Now, he frames the cultural problem like this. Disenchantment was supposed to free humanity from believing in fairy tales like Christianity. But the worldview has proven unlivable. People are still searching for spiritual meaning. And so he claims that we're now in a re-enchantment phase or era, I guess. He says AI, those who kind of, try to convert people to AI, are using unscientific, mystical, and even religious language to describe the technology's transformative potential for humanity. So he's like, those who are out there who are kind of the AI evangelist, trying to proselytize people and try to get people to convert to AI. Now, maybe there are those in the tech world who are trying to do that, right? I don't think this has much impact on the average person, but okay. So he wants to frame it. Hey, here are like these AI technological leaders, they serve almost like as evangelists. And so they're trying to frame it in a different way. So he says this, they have likened their role. He's now speaking of these like AI, I guess we'll call evangelists. They have likened their role as midwives, birthing a non-human kind of a super knowledge coming into the world as prophets summoning gods. So in other words, he's going to take some quotes from some of these AI leaders who are like, hey, we are giving birth to a non-human super knowledge, and we're like prophets summoning gods. Now, if you can find some quotes like that by technological leaders and you can put them on a screen in a church, you'll hear an audible, oh, 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 ah! Grab the pitchfork and the torches. Let's kill a witch. Okay, I know that sounds like I'm being way sarcastic, but I'm not. All right? If you have someone who, in the technological world saying, we are trying to bring about this super sentient being, this AI that's going to be more human than humans, we're going to be summoning a new God. Oh man, the church will lose its ever-living mind if they see something like that. Oh my goodness. Johnny, put your AI down. Oh no, they're going to lose their minds. And this has been a trick the church has played forever, going all the way back to the Prophecy Club that used to come on Christian radio. And they always were like, oh, we've got these political leaders and they're going to do this and they're going to do this and they're going to be that. And oh my goodness, it's always like we're 5 seconds away from Armageddon. They used to do the same thing with rock music. Look what Prince said. Look what Iron Maiden said. Look what Judas Priest said. Oh my goodness, they're going to come for our kids. It's the end of the world. And it's like, oh, calm down. Every day it's a new panic. It's almost like you're getting ready to go to sleep and you hear screaming like, what's the problem today? How is the world going to end today? Christians are screaming about something again today. And at some point, it just gets old, right? So he finds some quotes that describing that these technological leaders are describing their jobs as birthing this non-human, super sentient. They're like prophets bringing about a God. So the setup is basically secularism failed. People want transcendence. And AI is becoming the new carrier of that longing. AI is there to bring about this, to provide what people are longing for. So his central kind of conceptual move where, and you can go ahead and write this down if you want. He's going to frame this as digital Gnosticism. All right. And here is kind of a quote. Its design is indelibly shaped by quasi-religious beliefs rooted in digital Gnosticism, a dualistic worldview that seeks transcendence over the material world by leveraging digital technology. All right. Then he explains historical Gnosticism. Ancient Greek Gnosticism viewed the material world as a cosmic mistake, a prison from which to escape and ascend to a more true spiritual existence by divine secret knowledge. Then he applies it to today. For digital Gnostics, the limitations of embodied life are existentially vexing. Even every inefficiency, from the ordinary frictions of community to the inevitability of death, must be overcome through technology. So his framing is like this. So in his framing, the body equals limitation, community equals friction, mortality equals problem, technology is the escape mechanism. So, hey, these people are just modern day Gnostics because they want to escape the body. They want to escape the limitations of the body. They want to escape all of it. All right. Now, see, if you frame it this way, it can sound frightening and it can sound scary. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe this is happening. And look, when I was a young Christian, man, I heard some of these programs late at night, listening to Christian programs about the dangers of New Age or this or that. Sometimes I was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? How are we going to live? I'm not going to even make it to 18. I'm going to be dead. They're coming for us. They're going to kill all the Christians. Sometimes they had me so worked up. And then over time, I started realizing, man, you guys are constantly selling me something that, if I listen to AC/DC, demons are going to crawl out of the spirit and drag my soul to the highway of hell. And it's like, what is going on? And at some point, you're kind of like, guys, you can only sell panic for so long until people just get tired of the panic. So I'm not saying he is going that far, but it feels very similar that, hey, look at what some of these people have said. Look at what some of these people have believed. Okay, maybe they have. Maybe they haven't. What has that got to do with this ultimately? So he makes a very strong claim. He goes on to say that AI is the digital Gnostics' Messiah. Oh, AI is the digital Gnostics' Messiah. So if you are a digital Gnostic, your Messiah is AI. It offers, and then again, he kind of frames it this way, it offers every user the gift of knowledge and power, untethered from wisdom and virtue. So then he cites some other language that is used, that AGI has been called humanity's last invention. Our technological rapture is just around the corner. And then he says, digital Gnosticism then is the good news that we will be saved by merging with machines, or with the machine. Ooh, see, now we're going to get to transhumanism. That's a favorite talked about a lot within some Christian circles. Transhumanism, it's going to destroy humanity, all this. Sometimes now again, he's not taking it as far as some would, but it has that same vibe to the argument. So he mentions Brian Johnson's Don't Die movement, projecting consciousness into space, optimizing humanity for immortality. So he insists there are genuine beliefs flooding a culture now lacking the gravitational pull of Christianity at its center. So his critique, his AI critique, is not mainly about misinformation, ethics, economics, power, or manipulation. It's a religious metaphysical argument. AI is becoming a pseudo-salvific system. Oh, now that's scary. AI. Oh, AI is out to get us. Or AI is going to replace Christ kind of concept. He then goes even further in the article to say, what if there are ghosts in the machine? What if there are ghosts in the machine? What do we do? What do we do? I don't know. He argues if the cardboard and plastic of a Ouija board can be a gateway to dark spiritual forces, why not digital ones and zeros? He appeals to Ephesians 6, Deuteronomy chapter 18. He claims, even if AI is only reflecting superstition, there are real spiritual dangers in treating it like divination. I'm sorry. I know some of you are going to be like, he's right, okay? And you're already taking a hammer and you're like, die, ChatGPT, die, ChatGPT, you're evil, okay? You're burning it like, I'm going to throw my phone in the fire like I used to burn records and books and okay, or, okay, no, yeah, okay, whatever you're going to do. There's a lot of things I could say there. And it's just, come on. There's a lot of this I just have a hard time with, right? A hard time with. So now he kind of moves on to kind of his diagnoses of American Christianity, all right? He says, because American individualism has always been more than a little Gnostic, we often see our union with Christ as a merely spiritual reality, and we treat church as optional. So now he's got to bring it back to the church, all right? So AI is this quasi-religious digital Gnosticism, oh my goodness gracious, there's a ghost in the machine kind of argument. But then he's like, okay, Americans typically have this individualism, and he says it's been more than a little Gnostic. Our individualism has been a little Gnostic, so we treat Christ as a spiritual reality, and we treat church as optional. So he's got to try to fix the church's optional idea. He goes on to say, it never would have occurred to Paul that one could be spiritually in Christ without fully and physically abiding in Christ's body. Now, when it says fully and physically abiding in Christ's body, I'm assuming he's referring to then the church. You've got to be fully, physically, and abiding in the body. You have to be a part of the church. Now, again, if you want to make a theological argument, I guess that's okay. But do we have to make AI the villain in order to accomplish this? All right. So his critique is Christians already think in disembodied ways, already treat church as optional, and already think too individualistically. So AI just intensifies the problem. All right. So then he tries to make some positive arguments for the church. And then so here's kind of the internal logic of the article. All right, I'm just going to try to summarize everything. All right. New atheism and the secular worldview failed. People want transcendence. AI is now being spoken of in religious and salvific ways. This resembles Gnosticism, escape from embodiment via knowledge. This is spiritually dangerous. American Christians already leans towards disembodied faith. The church is God's embodied, communal, sacramental answer. There's that sacramental word again. Therefore, we need a rechurching to resist digital Gnosticism. Hey guys, digital Gnosticism is here, and we got to combat it by getting back to church. Now, I'm going to be fair here. He's not saying that everyone who uses AI is a Gnostic. He's not necessarily saying AI itself is a demon. He's not saying technology is evil. And he's not saying Christians should never use tech. He's not going that far. But if you take some of what he's saying to its logical conclusion, I think you could possibly end up there. But he is saying that there is a cultural religious movement forming around AI. And that's typically the way the church loves to do this. I'm not saying this is evil, but look at the people who put it together. Look at the people behind it. They are Satanists. They are the Illuminati. They are reptilians. They are demons. Okay, all right. Well, then inevitably you're calling into question what you're using, because you're saying the people who formed it are these things. So can you really trust it? You're at least planting that seed. He is saying that AI seems to be spiritually dangerous. And he does seem to say that AI reinforces disembodied escapist thinking. And he does clearly state that the church is the antidote. So let's take this apart. I know we're already at 41 minutes, but hey, there's no way I was going to get through this quick. Okay. So all I can do is go as fast as I can. All right. So let's try to offer a specific critique. And I rewrote this multiple times because I wanted to be fair. All right. And that first segment there, just kind of working through the article, you could argue, I could have read more of the article, but again, just trying to break down the basic argument there. I could have probably done it with less commentary, but the point is I can't look at that article without having some of these thoughts. So I'm just being honest with you. All right. So let's go through this. To me, when I got done with the article, here's what I thought. Oh, here we go. This is institutional preservation propaganda. Okay. This is institutional preservation argument where I'm going to make an argument to preserve the institution. So I believe that his article frames the entire rise of AI as kind of a spiritual and cultural crisis. And he calls it digital Gnosticism. And he argues that this is why the church is needed more than ever. But notice how the necessity of the church is actually justified throughout the article. The weight of the I think this is fair to say. I think I'm being fair here. The weight of the argument does not fall on, number one, the preservation of the apostolic deposit. No. The guarding of sound doctrine. No. The right handling of scripture. No. The danger of false teaching and false gospels. That's not the weight of his argument. Instead, he's like disembodiment, reenchantment, meaning seeking, formation, communal practice, resistance to technology's pseudo-spirituality. And even when he speaks of the word or sacrament and prayer, they're presented primarily as formative practices that shape us against digital Gnosticism, not as the authoritative means by which God reveals truth and judges error. So basically, in a functional way, his argument is this: AI is spiritually and culturally deforming people. Therefore, we need the church as an embodied communal meaning forming institution. So he's trying to making a relevance argument, not a revelation argument. He defends the church because it is useful in a crisis, not because it's the steward of something God has spoken. Hey, we need it because look what's happening. The church is more like it's useful in a crisis. It's more of, see, you need us because look at what's happening. But first, you got to build the danger before then the church becomes useful in the crises. The church is supposed to be useful in a crisis and out of a crisis because we would argue that God has ordained the church, right? If you're going to go that direction. So to me, it feels like all day long an institutional self-preservation. The structure of the article is culture is spiritually unstable and being reenchanted is dangerous, or it's being reenchanted in dangerous ways. AI is becoming a carrier of this pseudo-religious hope. People are seeking meaning badly, therefore the church must be re-embraced. To me, this is a classic cultural crisis apologetic for the institution. Right? Oh, we have a crisis. We need the church. It just sounds like you're trying to preserve the institution. I think historically, I think I can say this. You may disagree, but I think historically I can prove this. When the church feels its authority or its relevance is slipping away, the defense shifts from we guard what God has revealed to we provide something people psychologically and socially need. Now, pay attention to that. Whenever the church feels its relevance, its authority, something it's losing, it will always go, hey, we can provide something people need psychologically or socially. They will go to trying to meet these needs instead of saying we are the institution that Christ, and looking at it from a biblical standpoint. Because you got to market it. You got to market why people need to come. And I told you in 2025 that I thought the church would slide over into, hey, come here to get all of these needs met. We're not going to be so much worried about teaching you the word of God, doctrine, and theology because, AI can do that better than we can. But you need to have a cup of coffee with Bob and Susan. Remember, I told you I thought that's where this is going. And I think this is exactly what's happening. The church is being defended as a place of re-enchantment, a meaning center, a formation center, a communal counter practice, a resistance movement against technological disembodiment. See, it's becoming, you need this good, nice little social club, rather than the church is the pillar and ground of the truth, which I think is what 1 Timothy 3:15 says. So in a subtle way, they're already downgrading the importance of the church. The church is there so that you can hold hands and sing kumbaya, that you can have friends, you can have relationships, not that the church is the pillar and ground of the truth. And I'm going to argue that the New Testament never argues about the church in these terms. The New Testament does not say, gather so you won't be lonely. Gather because humans need embodied community. Gather to find meaning and belonging. Gather to resist cultural disembodiment. Those are modern therapeutic and sociological categories, not apostolic ones. The New Testament grounds gathering in the Word, right? Gather around the Word and the ordinances or the sacraments, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, if you want to go with a sacramental theology. The guarding of the gospel, Galatians, pastoral epistles. Church discipline and order, 1 Corinthians. Perseverance in truth and protection from deception. Even the famous Hebrews 10:25, it is not, don't stop meeting because you need community. It is, don't stop meeting because apostasy, deception, and the time is fast approaching, and real danger is coming. Now, of course, in their context, it's 70 AD, but you get the idea. So the concern in the New Testament is theological endurance, not your emotional wellness, because if you sit at home all day talking to AI, you're just becoming disconnected from people, and you need people. You need friends. Now, I think it's kind of messed up the way they do that. And I may do an entire episode on this. I get really sick of the church at this point. Because on one hand, the church says, Jesus is all you need. If you're lonely, you need Jesus. If you're single and you are tempted because you feel you need physical intimacy, all you need is Jesus. If you're a homosexual, you don't need to worry about that desire to have physical intimacy with someone of the same sex. You just need Jesus. He will meet all your needs. He will fix all your problems. You just need Jesus. And then they turn around, oh, no. You need people. You need companionship. You need community. You need friends. You need to hold someone's hand. You need to look someone in the eye. You're going to talk to people. Well, wait a minute. Why is it sometimes I just need Jesus? Hey, you are in a situation where you have no physical intimacy and you feel alone and you desire touch and you desire intimacy. You just need Jesus. On the other hand, no. Put down that phone and come to church. You need people. Well, do I need people or do I just need Jesus? Sometimes Jesus is all you need, and sometimes Jesus isn't what you need. You need people. So which is it? Stop telling me Jesus is all I need. Jesus will meet every need. Jesus is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. He's better than this. He's better than that. Your husband will disappoint you. Your wife will disappoint. Jesus will never let you down. All you need is Jesus. Well, then I don't need you, okay? So do I need Jesus and you? See, the New Testament is remarkably indifferent, and I know you're not going to like this. I feel the New Testament is completely indifferent to whether you're lonely, whether you feel marginalized, whether you feel isolated, or whether you feel socially cut off. Especially if the alternative is compromising the truth. Paul was often alone. So were the prophets. So was Jesus. Social fulfillment is never presented as theological good in and of itself. The article's emotional and rhetorical weight consistently falls on embodiment, presence, formation, reenchantment, and communal practice. That's an anthropological, human center of gravity. It's not a doctrinal one. I don't think that the New Testament is really that concerned about some of your emotional feelings. And it's not that the church is there to meet all of that. And so many people do that in church. Well, I went and they didn't talk to me this way, or they didn't do this and they didn't do this. Because people come to church for all of their emotional needs. And the New Testament is there to meet your spiritual needs. Now, if the church can help with an emotional need, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's not the primary focus. But it's going to become the primary focus, I guarantee you. Where we are headed is the emotional, social needs are going to become now what the church can meet. See, a lot of the modern defenses of the church are going to start sounding like this. Even if theology is confused, even if our sermons are shallow, at least church gives people community, meaning, and formation. And that's going to become the astonishing low bar. It turns the church into a human coping mechanism for a confusing world instead of the steward and guardian of divine revelation. And I think in a way, this article is participating in that same shift, even though it's using theological language. It does use theological language. It does sound academic. It doesn't sound like something crazy necessarily that you would hear on the Prophecy Club, but the same kind of rationale is there in a little bit. We've got a villain, and you need the church. But you need the church ultimately for these needs that are going to be met. And I've told you that's already happening. I already talked about a marketing campaign that one of the churches here in Abilene did. They started putting billboards all over Abilene. Don't live life alone. Don't do life alone. Come to church. And on the billboard, they had people, drinking coffee and talking to one another. You come to church so that you don't live your life alone. You don't need to do life alone. Come to church for other people. Not theology, doctrine, church history. No. You come for people. And that's okay. If you want to go to church for people, great. How about do this? Remove the name church and call it a social club. And I got no problem. See, the article treats AI as the great spiritual threat of our moment, of our time. But I think I look, and this is what kind of bothers me, because AI is being seen as the great spiritual threat. I think the deeper and older crisis is that scripture is routinely mishandled in the church, by the church. Context is constantly ignored in the church and by the church. Theology is flattened, reduced, stripped of anything. Sermons are moralized and they're law. They don't even know the distinction between law and gospel. And the text is constantly bent towards the listener to meet their emotional and spiritual, their perceived spiritual need. So I'm going to say the collapse of the church was well underway before AI ever arrived on the scene. Remember the 1990s and all the yelling and screaming about the problems in the church? Church has become a social club. It's an entertainment center. It's fun, food, drink, fellowship. Doctrine is being cast to the side. The church is biblically illiterate, theologically illiterate. We need a reformation. The church needs change. Remember, we heard all through the 90s. And what is this? And the church is turning into this performance. And we have all the criticisms over the way churches were doing worship and the fog machines and the lights and the stage and the $30,000 electric guitar and all the stuff going on. And it was criticized and criticized. We've almost completely abandoned that. That's no longer even an issue anymore. Now it's like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do to get people to come back? Well, the church made itself irrelevant before AI ever said hello. The article's logic is church matters because it offers embodied communal practices. The New Testament logic is church matters because God has spoken and his word must be preserved, proclaimed, and defended. Okay? And I cannot stress that enough. Now, I could offer, because I'm at 55 minutes, I could offer its use of trying to say AI is Gnostic, there's a lot of problems with that, right? We could get into what true classic Gnosticism was. Are there those who may have somewhat of a Gnostic framework who are involved in AI? Maybe. I don't know. And I mean, we could get into that whole how you make that argument. But so I want to go through like the history of, we could go through Gnosticism and compare it, but I don't have time to get into all of that. I would love to, but what I want to do here, because I went all in on this, but I don't have time here. What I want to do is I want to skip down to, I think, some of the real problems or some of the kind of the inconsistency here. I won't call it, I'll talk about the contradiction. I think there's a contradiction here. All right. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to try to do this quickly and not go too far over an hour. All right. The message often goes like this. AI is disembodied. AI is dangerous. AI is spiritually misleading. AI is Gnostic. Don't outsource wisdom. Don't let technology replace real spiritual formation. However, in most churches, 5 seconds later, download our app. Watch the live stream, listen to the podcast, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, smash that subscribe button, ring that bell, consume our content. And we don't care if you're consuming our content alone, in your car. We don't care if you're consuming our content and it's mediated by algorithms. And I think that that's absolutely ridiculous, the inconsistency there. Because if mediation itself is the problem, then church has already surrendered. If it's like, no, you got to be with a group of people. You need people. You need community. You need this for formation. You can't have this disembodied. The church disembodied it by digitizing everything a long time ago. You put the sermons on radio. You put the sermons on television. You put the sermons online. You already said that you can listen and watch away from the church. And you say, well, this is not a replacement for the church. But I'm watching you online, not in sitting in church. Everyone on sermon audio, you put this stuff online. Who's watching it? People who are not at church. And you say, well, we just have it there for the people who are sick. Well, the people who are sick can just miss a week of church and come back next week, right? So to me, what this reveals, the problem is not technology. If the church truly believed that, then digital mediation would equal Gnostic. Screens would equal disembodiment. And non-physical presence would be spiritually dangerous. So this logic would then lead to no live streams, no podcasts, no apps, no social media, no online sermons, no digital Bible plans, no remote teaching. But of course they don't do that. No, of course they don't. Why? Because I don't believe technology is the problem and technology is the villain that they want to make it out to be. The problem is, come here. Okay, shh, don't tell anybody. The problem is competition. They don't like that. See, here's the real principle. Technology is dangerous when it bypasses us. Technology is a gift when it distributes our content. AI is bad because it answers questions without your ecclesial control. Live streams are good because they extend our institution. Podcasts are fine as long as they promote our brand. Apps are holy because people can give using them. And don't even tell me don't even for a second argue with me about this. I have worked with 2 app creating companies that create apps for the church. 2 of them. One was in Austin, the other one was in California. The one in California is a huge one that makes apps for countless churches, big ministries I could name. And guess how, and I spoke to them on the phone countless times. Guess how they kept selling the app? People can give. People can give their tithes. We can find a way to increase giving. By using this app, you can increase giving. You can increase giving. You can increase. And I had to finally say, stop telling me it can increase giving. If I have an app, it's because I want people to get to my content. I want them to get to the podcast episodes and get to the sermons, not because they can click on a stupid donate button. They were so focused on how to maximize the app to get people to give because that's what it became about. See, the technology is good if it works in the church's favor. But if AI makes it look like, well, you don't really need the church. Oh, dear goodness. No. You need us. You need us and you need our app and you need to give. I have no problem with the donate button on an app. I don't have a problem with that. Obviously, go to theologycentral.net, you'll see our donate tab. If you go to the Church One app, there's a give tab. I'm not against that. But it was just so maddening that these companies were like, that's why you need the app. That's our number one marketing is that can increase the amount of giving because it makes it easier for people to give. And they kept telling me how to maximize this and I don't want that. I want to know if your app will help it make it easy for people to listen to my podcast. That's what I want. How quickly does it update? How quick can it send out a push notification? They kept like, we want to talk about how it can help you get money. I want to know if people can get my content. Now, yes, do I need them to? I'm not against the church getting support, just like I'm obviously not against people supporting this. I mean, before I know it, this month is going to be up and I'm going to have to pay for all the streaming that we do. All right. So I understand that. But the point is it became about this. So see, technology is good if it's helping you. So live streams are good because they extend the institution. Podcasts are fine because they promote the brand. And apps are holy because they increase giving and engagement. So, and then notice how Gnosticism only appears when their authority is threatened, when their mediation is uncontrolled. People can learn without pastors and interpretation is decentralized. See, once all of a sudden AI can help you learn and criticize sermons and critique sermons and produce things better than most sermons, then all of a sudden AI is of the devil. It's so ridiculous. See, AI becomes bad, but watching a sermon alone on YouTube, that's not Gnostic. See, AI is Gnostic, but if you're watching our sermon on YouTube alone, separated from the church, by yourself, that's not Gnostic. Who cares if it's disembodied? Who cares? You're watching us. Listening to a podcast alone in your car, that's not Gnostic. Reading a devotional app alone at night, that's not Gnostic. Live streaming communion, that's not Gnostic. So obviously Gnostic doesn't mean disembodied. It means Gnostic is anything outside our approved channels. I'm sorry, get over your stinking self. It's ridiculous, man. Now, come on, let's say it honestly. Don't rely on AI for understanding scripture. Instead, watch a 60-minute sermon on your phone alone, mediated by algorithms, sponsored by ads, recorded weeks ago, and edited for engagement. Oh, come on. And I will say in most cases, the sermons are probably less precise than AI. Well, I know we spent 2025 going AI versus sermons and AI kept winning. So I'm going to say the church already trained people, right? Christians were taught for 20 plus years, consume sermons online, replace local teaching with celebrity preachers, treat theology as downloadable content and confuse listening with discipleship. AI didn't create the problem. It just does it better than the church. Hey, your content's trash. AI outdoes you any day, any of the week, and does it faster and does it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And where you can only produce a couple of sermons a week, AI can give me a sermon every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. As fast as I can consume a sermon, AI can give me another one. So if we use their own logic, a decontextualized sermon, well, that's Gnostic. Verse of the day apps, Gnostic. God told me through this podcast, Gnostic. Private quiet time detached from historical context is Gnostic. And hyper-personalized devotional readings is Gnostic. So if you look at that, the church is Gnostic. So the same church that says AI can't replace real discernment, the same church that says that is the same one that produces sermons that ignore context, flatten scripture, moralizes text, centers the listener, confuses law and gospel, and contradict other sermons sometimes from the same church. And then they say, hey, trust us. Don't trust the machine because there's a ghost in it. I mean, you got a credibility problem. It's not a technology problem. And so I want to end this, and I had to skip a lot with how the article ends, because if you look at the article, go all the way down to the bottom, and it says in the bio, Brad Edwards is a lead pastor of the Table Church in Lafayette, Colorado. Okay, well, wait a minute. He's a pastor. Obviously, he's going to defend the institution. He's a pastor. You got skin in the game. Obviously, you got to keep people going to your church. You got to keep them showing up or the institution collapses. So obviously, you're going to promote the church attendance and being there because they don't want to be disembodied and they need a community and all of the other buzzwords. But then it just cracked me up. He is the author of Christianity Today's Book of the Year. Oh, he's an author of a book. So if I buy your book and I'm sitting at home reading it alone, is that not disembodiment? Am I not disengaged? Am I only allowed to read your book inside a church, sitting with Bob and Susan, having a cup of coffee? Or can I just read it anytime, separated from the church? Oh, the reason for church. That's the name of the book, The Reason for the Church. And he's the co-host of the podcast, Post Everything. Just think about this. He is warning about disembodiment, disembodied mediation, I guess, digital pseudo-spirituality. He's warning about technology-mediated meaning. He's warning about people seeking answers alone through machines. And where is this warning delivered? Oh yeah, I found it in my email and I found the article online. While I was sitting in my room alone, he delivered this warning through a digitally mediated article. It was read by not just me, but anybody reading it, most likely is reading it alone on a screen. It was discovered, well, for me, through an email. Some cases, it's going to be discovered through algorithmic feeds or email newsletters, which it was an email newsletter. Now, that doesn't make the article wrong, but it does undercut the moral panic about mediation and disembodiment. See, the message becomes digital mediation is spiritually dangerous unless that's how you consume my content. He writes books. Usually they're going to be read alone. He co-hosts a podcast, consumed alone, mediated by algorithms. He publishes articles online, so he participates fully in the content economy, all of which are disembodied, mediated, individualized. That's exactly the system he is warning about. Now, it doesn't mean books and podcasts are bad. It means the argument cannot be mediation itself is spiritually suspect because his entire ministry depends on that very thing. The real distinction isn't mediated versus embodied. It's mediation we control versus the mediation we don't. His book is good. His podcast is good. His article is good. Most likely his church live streams probably does good. But ChatGPT? Suspicious. Independent exploration? Dangerous. Uncontrolled tools? Digital divination. So to me, the church's concern is a loss of gatekeeping, not embodiment. Modern Christianity is already a content ecosystem. It's already a digital distribution network. It's already a podcast economy. It's already a live streamed religion. It's already a YouTube sermon culture. It's already a devotional app industry. AI did not create any of this. AI just entered the very space that the church had already built. And it did it better than the church. Now, I know, to be fair, he probably thinks, well, these tools can be used for good, but it seems that he seemed to be implying that AI is somehow different. His argument actually, or seems to be going, mediation equals Gnostic, disembodiment is dangerous, digital seeking is spiritually risky. But his entire vocation is built on mediated communication, disembodied content delivery, digital distribution, and individual consumption. So come on. He's literally saying don't seek meaning through disembodied digital systems, and he's doing so in a disembodied digital system. And then he signs it podcast host and author. Okay, that's not just small irony. The whole structure of the argument collapses in and on itself by the time you get to the end of the article. So I'll say it this way, because I want to be fair. I'm reading this article online. I'm reading this article alone, and I'm reading this article on a screen. The author is a podcaster. He writes books. His entire ministry is mediated through the very digital ecosystem that he's warning me about. So clearly, the issue cannot simply be mediation or disembodiment. The real question is, who controls the mediation and who gets to be the authority? The church is not afraid of technology. The church is afraid of losing control of interpretation. They're afraid of losing control over authority, and they're afraid of losing control over access. AI makes it all very visible. There you have it. How will the church continue to respond to AI? I don't know. If you're going to turn it into a villain, turn it into the digital Gnosticism and disembodied divination, and you're going to do all of that, I'm sorry, you lose your credibility in 5.2 seconds. If you have a problem with that type of thing, then put your money where your mouth is. Don't want to see you on sermon audio. Don't want to hear about downloading your app. Don't want to hear about your Facebook page or your YouTube channel or your Instagram or your TikTok. I don't want to hear any of that. Say church is about a community of people looking at one another because we need each other. Well, then only allow people to engage you presently, physically in your building. The end. Then you have the moral high ground to say, see, we don't do all of that stuff. Now, I'll never hear you say that because, well, you'll only be saying it inside your church. So I won't know that you're saying that. Right? So it really won't matter what you say. But if you're going to use all of this technology, well, then guess what? People can use that technology. I'm never going to go to that man's church in a million years. Never. Now, the problem is you don't like the fact that AI can do everything better than you can. It can do it better. AI can tear your sermon apart, rip it into shreds in seconds. So I think it's going to be very difficult for the church to just acknowledge, We see it as competition more than we see it as an existential spiritual threat. No. You're going to frame it that way. And that will work. You'll convince the old people that it's dangerous and demonic and evil and don't do it. I understand. It will work. It always works with the older generation. You convince the older generation that we needed to show up on churches on Saturdays and burn records like we're in Nazi Germany. It worked. You're able to convince older generation that Satan was everywhere and oh no, we're all going to die. You were able to convince the older people to kill some witches in Salem. You're always good at convincing the older people. But sooner or later, the newer generation arises going, you people out of your ever-living minds. And I think the newer generation hopefully will go, I'm sorry, not buying your little game. Right? Not going to go with it. You may want to be in control, but I'm sorry. I'm going to ask ChatGPT right now what this sermon is about, and I think this sermon is trash, okay? You don't like that. You don't like the fact that I can have a better sermon written for me before I get out of the driveway to go to your church. You don't like the fact that I can take your sermon, come home, give it to AI, and AI can tell me everything you said that was incorrect, an error, or false. You don't like that. Nobody does. Okay, nobody. I don't like when I give my episodes to AI and it tells me I'm an idiot. Okay, I don't like that either. I don't like the fact that most people don't even need me. I'm a relic of the past. Who needs a podcast? AI can do better than I can. Sooner or later, we're all going to be replaced. You don't need anybody. You don't need who needs to write books? AI can write. Ultimately, I don't know. Well, we'll need AI we'll need people using AI probably. I think that's probably a good way to say it. You're still going to need people, but you're going to need people using AI. AI is still going to become the engine. You just may need someone with the steering wheel. So I don't know. Digital Gnosticism, I don't know. I know the church is constantly, but this is what I will say. Whether you agree with his argument or disagree with the argument, it does indicate this. The church is going to handle this, I think, in either two major ways. There's an evil villain, it's called AI, and I think that argument falls apart but based on how they use technology themselves. And in two, you need people. You see, Jesus is not going to be enough anymore. You need people. You got to be here. You got to sit next to Bob and Susan, and you got to have coffee with them, and you need to be in a small group. And we already heard small groups marketed like this a long time ago. You cannot be a Lone Ranger Christian. You need to be in a small group because without a small group, you can't grow spiritually. And the small group is essential to your spiritual life, and you can't grow. And then I know people who go to small groups and they're theologically, doctrinally, textually illiterate. And I'm like, well, your small group did a lot of good. Let's see. But now they're going to reframe the small group as where you do community, where you have people. You need human interaction or you cannot grow spiritually. So the church is going to be the place that meets that psychological need for people. But then don't turn around, church, and tell me that I need people. And then when someone is alone, seeking intimacy, say, well, oh, no, you just need Jesus. Oh, shut up. Just shut up. If someone's alone, desiring intimacy, and you just tell them they need Jesus, then tell those other people they just need Jesus so they can just stay at home. They don't need to have coffee with Bob and Susan. Either Jesus meets it all, gives us all we need, or you can't play that game when it's beneficial for you. Because then you would have to admit Jesus doesn't meet all of our needs because we have deep psychological, emotional, physical, biological needs. And those needs not met creates major problems. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Jesus doesn't meet all of those needs. And if you say he does, then I don't need to hang out with you on a Sunday. All right. Well, this will be popular. All right. Now, all of you disembodied souls who've been listening to me on an app, you Gnostics, what is wrong with you? You Gnostics. Okay. Everyone have a good day. Bye.